For about half a century, the moon has just been there, a silent, dusty monument to a really exciting time that came and went. We visited, we planted a flag, and then we just left. But that is all changing, and it's changing fast. Right now, the moon is once again the hottest ticket in the solar system. A new high-stakes race is on, and this time, it's not just about getting there. This time, it's about staying.
So it brings up a really simple question, right? One you've probably asked yourself just looking up at the night sky. With all of our incredible technology, everything we've accomplished since the Apollo missions, you'd think we'd have a permanent base up there by now, wouldn't you?
Well, the answer, as of right now, is a surprisingly blunt no. There are 0 permanent human outposts on the moon. Not a single one.
But hold on, don't let that get you down, because what's happening right now is arguably the most exciting era of lunar exploration since the 1960s. The dream of a moon base is no longer just science fiction. It's become a concrete national strategy, and it is fueling a new and incredibly intense international competition.
So, let's get into it. This new race is a whole new ballgame. It's fundamentally different from the first one. I mean, the Apollo missions were amazing, but they were about temporary visits, flags, and footprints. Today's ambitions, they're all about establishing a sustainable, long-term human presence. We're literally moving from just visiting the moon to actually living on it.
And just like any good race, you've got major competitors. Right now, we're seeing 2 massive global alliances forming around 2 very different visions for our future on the moon. In one corner, you have the Artemis program, and in the other, you have the International Lunar Research Station, or the ILRS.
And I want to be really clear here. These aren't just 2 separate teams trying to build the same thing. They represent 2 completely different philosophies about how humanity should expand into the cosmos. The Artemis program, led by the US, is all about public-private partnerships. The ILRS, on the other hand, led by China and Russia, is taking a much more state-driven, government-led approach.
All right, let's really break this down because the details are fascinating. On the one side, you have Team Artemis. This is led by NASA, but it's a huge, open collaboration with major partners like Japan and the European Space Agency, and more than 30 nations have signed the Artemis Accords. Critically, it leans heavily on commercial companies like SpaceX to cut costs and innovate faster. Their timeline is aggressive: get boots back on the ground around 2027 and get a base up and running in the 2030s. Now, on the other side, you have the ILRS, the China-Russia-led effort. Their model is more traditional, more top-down, and they're building their own coalition through one-on-one agreements with countries like Pakistan and Egypt. Their timeline is a bit more methodical. They plan to use robots to build the basic framework of the base first, aiming for completion by 2035, and then send humans for long-term stays. So what you're really seeing is Earth's geopolitics being exported 240,000 miles into space.
So this begs the big question, right? What are they all competing for? Why this sudden massive investment in going back to the moon after basically ignoring it for 50 years? Well, the simple answer is that we've completely reassessed the moon's value. It's no longer just a cool place to visit. It's a strategic asset with absolutely immense potential.
It really comes down to 5 big things. First, the science. The moon is a perfectly preserved 4.5 billion-year-old time capsule of our solar system. Second, the resources. We're talking water ice, helium-3 for potential fusion energy. It's a cosmic treasure chest. Third, it's the ultimate stepping stone. You have to learn to walk on the moon before you can run to Mars. Fourth, it's an economic engine, the potential birthplace of a whole new lunar economy. And finally, of course, there's good old-fashioned geopolitical prestige. Having a base on the moon is the ultimate 21st century symbol of power and influence.
But out of all those reasons, there is one concept, one acronym that is the ultimate game changer. And that is ISRU, In Situ Resource Utilization. In simple terms, it means living off the land. It's the idea of using what's already on the moon, like its water and soil, to survive and build. This isn't just a neat idea, it is the absolute key to making a permanent human presence on the moon sustainable and affordable.
And this number, 90%, shows you why ISRU is such a revolution. The single most important resource we've found is water ice. And it's not just for drinking. You can zap that ice with electricity, a process called electrolysis, and split it into hydrogen and oxygen. What's that? It's the 2 main components of rocket fuel. By creating a cosmic gas station on the moon, you could slash the cost of transporting fuel from Earth by up to 90%. That doesn't just make space travel cheaper, it fundamentally changes the economics of exploring the entire solar system. Okay, so we've got the why down. We know the stakes.
Now for the really fun part, the how. I mean, how do you actually build a home in one of the most hostile environments we know of? It takes some serious ingenuity. So let's take a look at the actual blueprint.
First things first. Just like on Earth, it's all about location, location, location. And right now, the most valuable real estate in the solar system is the lunar South Pole. You can think of it as the moon's Gold Coast. It has this incredible combination of features. You have crater rims that get near constant sunlight, which is perfect for generating solar power. And then literally right next door, you have these deep, dark craters that have been in shadow for billions of years, making them cold enough to trap massive amounts of water ice. You've got power and water side by side. It's the absolute jackpot.
So what does Phase 1 of a moon base actually look like? Well, the Artemis Base Camp concept gives us a really clear picture. You start with your main house, the foundation habitat, which can support 4 astronauts for a couple of months. Then you need a car, right? That's the Lunar Terrain Vehicle, or LTV. Think of it as an open-top lunar Jeep for short trips. But the real game changer is the pressurized rover. This thing is basically a lunar RV, a mobile home and lab where astronauts can live for weeks, driving hundreds of kilometers away from base, all without ever needing to put on a spacesuit.
Okay, so you've got your starter home and your RV. But how do you expand? How do you build bigger structures? You can't exactly ship tons of concrete from Earth. The cost would be astronomical. The answer sounds like pure sci-fi. You 3D print with moon dust. By using focused heat, like a microwave or a laser, on the lunar soil, also known as regolith, you can melt it just enough to fuse it together. You're essentially creating lunar bricks on demand. This technology is how they'll build everything from landing pads to garages and, most importantly, thick radiation shields.
So, we've got the tech, we've got the location, we're building with moon dust, but we're forgetting the most important and by far the most fragile part of this whole equation, the human beings. Building the base is one thing. Actually surviving there day to day, that is a whole other challenge. What is it really like to live on the moon?
Let's start with something that sounds fun. Low gravity. Bouncing around on the moon sounds like a blast, right? Well, for a short time it is. But living long-term in just 1/6 of Earth's gravity is absolutely brutal on your body. Without that constant weight, your bones start to lose density at an alarming rate. As you can see here, the bone loss can be up to 10 times faster than for someone with osteoporosis here on Earth. Your muscles atrophy. Astronauts will have to spend hours every single day on intense exercise regimens just fighting to slow down that physical decay.
So while your body is literally weakening from the inside, there's an invisible enemy attacking you from the outside, radiation. Here on Earth, we take our atmosphere and our magnetic field for granted. They work together like a giant force field, protecting us from harmful cosmic rays. The moon has none of that. It's completely exposed. That means the astronauts up there will be hit with a radiation dose about 200 times higher than the average on Earth. This is a constant, silent threat that dramatically increases the risk of cancer and can damage the central nervous system.
And the daily challenges just keep piling up. Imagine trying to have a normal conversation with your family back home. There's this awkward 2.6-second delay every time someone speaks. That constant reminder of just how far away you are. Imagine the psychological stress of living in a tiny, confined space with the same few people for months, totally isolated. And underneath it all is the constant, low-level dread that you are living in a vacuum. One tiny tear in your spacesuit, one little leak in the habitat, and it's all over. The psychological toll of that is going to be immense.
So with all of those absolutely insane challenges, you might think people would be hitting the brakes, but they're not. In fact, they're hitting the accelerator. Why? Because the people behind these programs believe the reward is absolutely worth the risk. They aren't just building a research station. They believe they are laying the foundation for a whole new chapter of human civilization. And a huge reason all of this is suddenly possible comes down to simple economics. Look at this comparison. NASA's Space Launch System, an incredible piece of engineering built the traditional government way, costs over $2 billion every single time it flies. But then you have a commercially developed, fully reusable rocket like SpaceX's Starship, which is aiming for a cost of less than $10 million per launch. That is a cost reduction of over 99%. This isn't just a small improvement, it's a paradigm shift that opens up access to the moon in a way we could only dream of before.
And when it's that much cheaper to get to the moon, what happens? An entire economy starts to become possible. You'll have companies mining that water ice and selling it as rocket fuel to missions heading deeper into space. You'll have other companies building vital infrastructure like a lunar GPS or a communication network. The unique environment is actually perfect for manufacturing things like fiber optics or certain crystals. And yes, eventually there will be tourism. This is the grand vision, a thriving, self-sustaining economy that exists between the Earth and the moon.
You know, We've all grown up with this. We've seen moon bases in movies and read about them in books since we were kids. They were always a symbol of a distant, fantastic future. But the thing is, it's not the distant future anymore. The plans are being finalized. The rockets are being tested. The international rivalries are heating up. We are living through the exact moment where that science fiction is finally crossing over into reality.
And all of this brings us to the final and most important question. As these two great alliances charge ahead with their competing visions, we have to ask ourselves, what kind of future are we actually building? Will the sheer difficulty of surviving on the moon force us to work together, to create a new model for global cooperation, or will the immense strategic value and economic prizes just extend our earthly conflicts into the heavens? The race to the moon is on, and its outcome is going to define humanity's next great frontier.
All right, space fans, welcome. We are standing right on the edge of humanity's big return to the moon, a time when science fiction is literally becoming facts. But how much do you really know about what's going on up there? Well, in this explainer, we're going to put that knowledge to the test. Let's see if you can nail all 10 questions and earn the title of Lunar Base Master.
Okay, so the challenge is laid out. 10 questions stand between you and the title. Think you've got what it takes to be a lunar base master? Let's find out. Time to dive in.
Let's kick things off with a big one, a real foundational question. It's a simple yes or no, but don't rush it. Take a second, think about it. Got your answer locked in? Good. Let's see if you're starting off strong. And the answer is a big, clear no. But hey, don't worry, this isn't a trick question. The key thing here is that we are on the absolute verge of it. What used to be pure fantasy is now becoming actual national strategy, which, leads us perfectly into our next question. So, this new push for the moon isn't just one country planting a flag. Nope. It's more like a brand new space race with two major teams, or blocks, squaring off. They're both racing to the moon, but they have totally different game plans. So, who were the two main players? And there you have it, the two titans on the lunar stage. On one side, you've got the US-led Artemis program with its international partners, and on the other, the China/Russia-led ILRS. Make no mistake, this is way more than a tech race. It's a full-on geopolitical chess match, and the outcome is going to define the rules for space for generations to come. Okay, let's zoom in on the Artemis program's plan for a minute. Right at the heart of their strategy is a small space station that'll orbit the moon. It's meant to be a kind of transfer point, a command center, a staging post for missions to Mars, the whole shebang. So what's this critical piece of infrastructure called? Did you get it? It's the gateway. This thing is the absolute linchpin for the entire Artemis architecture. Think of it as Grand Central Station for the moon. It's the hub for all landings and surface missions, and it's basically the key to having a sustained human presence up there. Now, the Artemis program isn't just an American show. It's a huge international team effort. And one of its key partners, Japan, is building something seriously cool. It's basically a pressurized lunar camper van that's set to totally revolutionize surface exploration. Do you know its name? It's called the Lunar Cruiser, and this thing is an absolute game changer. I mean, imagine astronauts driving around for weeks, covering thousands of kilometers, all without ever needing to put on a bulky spacesuit. It's a huge deal. And get this, as a testament to this partnership, 2 Japanese astronauts are scheduled to be the first non-Americans to actually walk on the moon. Okay, so you hear everyone talking about the lunar South Pole, right? It's like the hottest piece of real estate in the solar system. But why? Yeah, we know it gets a lot of sunlight for solar power, but there's something else there. Something even more valuable hiding in the shadows of its craters. What is everyone looking for? The magic ingredient is water ice. Frozen water, locked away where the sun never shines. And this is the real jackpot. Why? It's because of a concept called in situ resource utilization, which is a fancy way of saying living off the land. You can melt it for drinking water, split it into oxygen to breathe, and even turn it into hydrogen and oxygen for rocket fuel. Being able to do that could slash mission costs by up to 90%. It's huge. Okay, so we've got power from the sun and we've got water from ice. What's next? A roof over our heads. You obviously can't ship an entire base from Earth. It's just too heavy. So you have to build with what's already there. What's the key technology that's going to make this possible? The answer is 3D printing. But instead of using plastic, the ink will be the lunar soil itself, also known as regolith. You can just scoop it up and print habitats, layer by layer. And this isn't just some sci-fi dream. China's Chang'e 8 mission is actually planning to test this out by printing the very first lunar brick right there on the surface.
But let's be real for a second. The moon is not a friendly place. It's an incredibly harsh environment. With no atmosphere and no magnetic field for protection, astronauts are constantly getting bombarded by an invisible and very dangerous threat from deep space. What is this silent killer?
The threat is cosmic radiation. And on the moon, an astronaut would get an annual dose of about 420 millisieverts. Now, I know that number probably doesn't mean much on its own, so let me put it into perspective for you. 420 millisieverts is a whopping 200 times the average radiation dose you'd get in a year just by living in Japan. That kind of exposure seriously increases the risk of cancer and other health problems, and it's exactly why any permanent moon base will need to be buried under several meters of regolith for shielding.
So we've covered the tech, the resources, and the dangers. But what about the price tag? Groundbreaking exploration costs a ton of money. Let's take the main rocket for the Artemis program, the SLS. It's a marvel of engineering, but it is not cheap. What do you think just one launch costs?
Brace yourself. A single launch costs a minimum of $2.2 billion. Some estimates put it over $4 billion. That's a massive hurdle. But there is a potential disruptor on the horizon, SpaceX's Starship. Their goal is to slash those costs, maybe even to 1/100th of traditional rockets. And if they pull that off, it changes the entire equation.
All right, time for a quick detour from reality with a fun one. Science fiction has always inspired our dreams of space. So, for all you anime fans out there, in the classic Mobile Suit Gundam, what was the name of the pro-Zeon military city on the far side of the moon?
The answer is Granada. It was the key industrial and military base for the Principality of Zeon, strategically located on the far side. It's just a great little example of how science fiction was already imagining a politically complex moon decades ago.
Okay, back to reality for our final question. We've talked about the Artemis program, but what about the ILRS? According to their official roadmap, when is the China/Russia-led initiative planning to begin long-term human stays on the moon?
The ILRS roadmap is a very patient, state-led strategy. They're spending about a decade just on robotic surveys and construction before humans even arrive for long-term stays. Their target for people to start living there is 2036 and beyond. It's a very deliberate, step-by-step approach. And that's our wrap. How did you do? If you got most of those right, then congratulations. You are officially a lunar base master. The big takeaway here is the clear contrast between these two competing visions, the fast, agile, public-private model of Artemis versus the slow, methodical, state-led approach of the ILRS. We are living in a truly amazing era, watching humanity's next giant leap unfold in real time. The dream of a lunar base is no longer a fantasy. It's a very real goal for our generation. So keep paying attention, because the drama of our return to the moon has only just begun.